visit in the parlor. This is the formal side of the Lincoln home. This side of the house was used for special occasions, primarily entertaining important visitors and guests. And Mr. Lincoln's journey to the White House started in this room on the evening of May the 19th of 1860, when he was formally offered the nomination to be the Republican candidate for the 1860 presidential election. Now, while we're standing in this room, I want to mention the Lincoln boys for just a moment. There were 4 of them: Robert, Edward, William, and Thomas. Robert was 9 months old when his mother and father moved into this house. Edward, William, and Thomas were born in here, and Eddie Lincoln died in this house in 1850 of an illness we think was tuberculosis. He was almost 4 years old at the time of his death. And the reason I wanted to mention the boys in here is because the boys weren't allowed to play here in the formal parlor. This side of the house was only opened up for those special occasions. This was the first room that was added, and originally it was the master bedroom. When the second floor was completed in 1856, all the bedrooms were moved upstairs, and this became a back parlor with the front parlor here, and they could be separated by these bifold doors. Its original furniture has been reupholstered, but it is the original furniture. The upholstery on it now is actually a horsehair synthetic blend. It's not 100% horsehair. That is available, but it would be quite expensive. This was the sitting room, and I like to imagine Mr. and Mrs. Lincoln sitting in here in the evening, maybe reading to their boys, reading especially from the works of Dickens and Shakespeare and from the poetry of Robert Burns. And of course the boys could have their toys and games here on this side of the house. There was no electricity, but the Lincolns did have a little bit of visual entertainment. The box on the table was a stereoscope, and by placing those picture cards into the box and looking through the eye holes, the family would have seen 3-dimensional images, kind of like using Viewmaster machines or 3D glasses for us. That little box was their window to the world, just like big screen TVs and the internet are our windows to the world today. And that actually was kind of high-tech when Mr. Lincoln brought it home for the family. And moving across the room was a little sewing table, another original artifact. Mrs. Lincoln was an excellent seamstress, and throughout the years in this house, she did make the majority of the clothing for everyone in the family. Now we're actually walking through the home of Abraham Lincoln, attorney at law, and the second floor really gives a good indication as to his success as an attorney, because not only did they have a separate guest room, but they had a master suite that was divided into separate bed chambers. Mrs. Lincoln's bed chamber behind me, and we're standing in Mr. Lincoln's bed chamber, his half of the master suite. It was common for an affluent husband and wife to have such an arrangement because in reality this was a sign of wealth and social status. And in the front corner of his room is my favorite piece of furniture, that little desk. That is Mr. Lincoln's actual writing desk, and I like to imagine him sitting there, maybe concentrating on his House Divided speech, a very famous and important speech given right here in Springfield in the Capitol building. Something else unique to the master suite is the wallpaper. When the Park Service restored the home, an original piece of wallpaper was uncovered here on that wall. So what you're viewing on the master suite walls is an exact reproduction of what was here when the Lincolns were here. The other wallpapers throughout the house are reproductions of patterns typical of the time, popular patterns in Springfield in that time period, very similar to what the Lincolns might have had. The Lincolns' oldest son, Robert, probably had this boys' room to himself until he left for college. Then Willie and Tad took it over and shared it for the remaining time the Lincolns were living in Springfield. Robert attended Harvard and became a very successful attorney just like his father. And he is their only son who did live to adulthood. Robert Lincoln died in 1926, just named Robert Todd Lincoln Beckwith. He grew up and got married, but he and his wife had no children, and Robert Beckwith died in 1985. That was the end of the line.
This is the 6th Capitol in the state of Illinois. The first Capitol was down in Kaskaskia, which is way down in southern Illinois. The next 3 were in Vandalia, also down south. The 5th one here in Springfield at 5th and Adams, and this is the 6th one. They started this Capitol in 1868. It took them 20 years to finish it. They finished it in 1888 at a cost of $4.5 million. However, if it hadn't been for the Chicago fire in 1871, the 6th Capitol probably would have been up in Chicago, because they planned to go up there. It was a done deal. But then the fire broke out. They had to come back here. First of all, they had to get some money, because originally only funded $3.5 million. So when they finally got their money, and they finally finished it after 20 years. They had $6.35 left in their checking account, just like the budget today. Now, if you go down from the footings up to the first floor, the walls are 17 foot thick. The marble that we see throughout the Capitol came from all over the world, primarily Austria, Germany, Switzerland, Italy, some of it the United States. If you take a look up there anywhere between those 10-foot statues, you'll see an eagle that's got a shield underneath it. Well, the eagle stands for the state seal. The shield underneath it's got 10 stars on the north side of that blue stripe going down the middle, 10 stars on the south side of it, and 1 star right in the middle of the blue stripe. What that stands for is the 10 northern states, the 10 southern states, and of course the 21st state, which is the state of Illinois. Our chandeliers are another ballgame. These are brand new. And what they are, they're replicas of what the original chandeliers looked like when they came in here in 1877, because as you know, we didn't have electricity, it was all gas. These are Czechoslovakian crystal. They weigh about 800 pounds each. Again, they can be lowered down to the best level for cleaning. The big wheel in the center up there, it's got 8 spokes in it. And each spoke there represents a letter in the state of Illinois, I-L-L-I-N-O-S. And again, like I say, everything works exactly the same way in both houses.